Hey, welcome everybody. It's a Bridging the Seen and Unseen. I am your host. I am Shane McLain, and of course, this is the wonderful Gwen. How are you?
I'm good. Cold, but good.
It's cold here, and my wife and I were just talking about that. And yesterday, literally here in the low country, it was 78 degrees here. And
Yes.
then somewhere overnight, it rained a little bit, and then now it's really cold out. This is the kind of stuff that gets people sick around here.
And here it's so windy that the waves, it's making waves on the lake that are white capping. It's so bad. The wind here.
Already,
Cold.
already that quick. And it's supposed to be that cold tonight too. So yeah.
So everybody, if you're down here, huddle up, cover up, and if you're up north, come get your weather. It escaped.
Yep, it came our way. It came our way. We're not used to stuff like that, especially in the low country here. I literally live right next to the ocean. So if it gets cold like that here, it's got to be cold because we have all those sea breezes too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but tonight, I'm excited. I'm excited tonight about this guest. I'm not going to say anything right here. I'm going to let her do the talking. But this is Paraflixx's own Kara Phillips.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. We always start the show pretty simple. Why don't you tell people who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Well, okay. So my name is Kara Phillip. I live where it's always cold. I live in the Chicago area.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sitting here.
It's your weather.
I'm listening to you guys talking. I'm like, how cold is it there? Because I can't imagine it's that bad. So I'm in the Chicago area, and I am the host of Paraflixx's talk show Into the Obscure, and with my co-host Rob Johnson. And he is one of my best friends in real life. So it's fun that we get to do this together. And we kind of we met, I'll say kind of my paranormal. I was into the paranormal my whole life, and all of that, haunted house growing up, like a lot of our stories. But more recently we got to be part of called the Saturday Squad at the old Joliet prison and run the paranormal tours before they discontinued their relationship with the paranormal and banned a bunch of us. So, our paranormal home got taken away, and that was devastating, but also we love it there. So that was a couple of years ago now, but that's how we got, how we met, probably about 6 years ago, and got to be hosts. And then I am also on the cast of History Alive, and that was just officially, signed by Paraflixx. So that'll be coming out soon too. So I am just Paraflixx family through and through here. And so that's kind of, and in real life, I am also a nurse. I went to administration, not bedside anymore, but mostly critical care. So I've been around a lot of death and a lot of things. So that was, interesting in my journey too. And I think that's it.
Now, how is that, Kara, being in the medical field? Because I know there's a lot of controversy, with paranormal activity and things like that. I am a bishop for Knights Temple Independent Catholic Ministries, and we are clergy that work in the paranormal field, and I know when I speak to medical, they try to think of more medical terms. Instead. Now, how does that relate with medical, with you and the paranormal?
So I think a lot of it, if there's something we can do something about, right, we're going to try to do something. You're hospitalized, we're going to probably look for something medical, before anything supernatural or religious, like anything, we're going to do what we can medically. That's why you're here, right? So that's what we'll try to address. And, my time in the hospital was critical care. So that's, maybe a little different, but don't think all those nurses out there, I'm not going to say all, plenty. We all know that people when they start talking about the man in the corner, they're probably going to die soon. We all know these things to be true. And we are all, and again, I say all, it's not all, but, pretty superstitious too. You start to, have some things going on, that might be a little bit more, might be a code situation coming. Don't put some of those medications maybe on people's chests. Like we get them ready just in case, but we'll put them on your chest, and that maybe means we won't need it. So we all have our things, or whether they're superstitions or just things we know to be true. So I think that all goes pretty well with it. I will say for me, when I was younger, I grew up in a haunted house. It was one ghost that was predominant. I'm not going to say she was the only, but one that was, definitely was who I saw and who I would talk to with, before I knew that I was talking to ghosts or anything. That was normal. I could see things, I could feel things, and I still can. But when I became a nurse, because I went right into critical care, I was always right there at, around people dying, right? Or nearly, or where people died. I am the best at shutting it all off. And I am the best at just saying that didn't happen. A ghost could walk right in front of me. And I'll say I saw that. And then I'll say that didn't happen. I'm very good at that because I didn't need that to be part of just a day at work either. So I will say I'm not, I certainly know people that were nurses, went more into being mediums, more as a full-time job. They'll say, no, they would come up to me and talk to me. They would, and have a lot more connection day to day. And I was like, oh, I never wanted that. So I think I was always very good at saying, I have to work. And that's it.
I'll tell you a funny thing. I used to be a firefighter, and worked in the hospital. And I worked in NICU with the babies, the itty bitty.
Oh boy.
Itty bitty baby. Well, I worked ICU. So I traveled pediatrics, then the ER, and then I was a medic. So I've done, and I tell you the different, and they know, especially if it's the older person. If they tell you they're going to die or they tell you goodbye, they're about to die. They know.
Well, it's the comment that was just on screen. Like they start seeing family. Absolutely. Yep. They'll start, they will say they're seeing family. And let
me read it to Shane. Shane, Marla, our friend.
Yeah. Hey, Marla.
Too, by the way. I have seen it many times working in nursing home. People saw their family that died before them. They do. And
you even if you're not seeing them yourself as, and again, and I don't see good, there, and I could describe colors or shapes perfectly. I see ghosts, like for lack of a better term, just more as like a shadow. And that doesn't mean they're a shadow person. It doesn't, I'm maybe not great at seeing them is maybe kind of what it is, or that's just how my brain interprets. So even if I'm not going to see their family, I'm not going to see these things because they're seeing beyond what I would ever be able to see. They really are seeing more than me just seeing somebody that's there. I have never come across like another nurse or a healthcare worker that has ever said, no, you don't. That's ridiculous. Like that doesn't exist. I think we all pretty universally say, oh, okay. And we know.
Yep. Of course. I'm a dialysis patient. So I was born with one kidney. And so, I deal a lot with nephrology and nurses there and stuff like that, and they all know what we do because my wife and I, we have Outer Realms Paranormal, and because that is our house one that we actually do all the investigating. We do the clearing, the cleansings, the blessings. Okay. We do everything right at once. And they all knew what I did, and they were like, you probably don't run into anything. I got a call. This is no lie, at like 7:00 in the morning. And the manager of the dialysis center called me freaking out. And she was like, McLain, I just got touched. And I'm like,
yep.
And she goes, there's a problem with that. I said, what is that? She goes, I'm by myself.
Was she at home or was she at the clinic?
No. She was at the dialysis center.
Oh, okay.
She was at the dialysis center. And then, so later on that day, another lady comes in and she's standing in the office and she's the only one that was in there. And she looked down the hallway and there was a black shadow figure coming in and out of the room there. So my wife and I got to go and actually investigate my dialysis center. And we found out that Thursday that I was there, the same chair that I sit in, I get premonitions and visions. And I was sitting in the chair, and all of a sudden my anxiety got so bad that I couldn't even stay on the machine. So I told them to take me off the machine because it got horribly bad.
Yeah.
And when I got there to investigate, that's when they told me. They were like, on the days that I'm not there, there was a young man that came in and he had unalived himself. Listen to this now. His mother, his father, his sister, his entire generational line unalived himself.
Whoa.
So there's all this energy that was left in there, and we got some really strong activity in there. And we went and we spent probably 4.5 hours like cleansing and blessing the area, and they have not had an issue since. But the shadows figures that we were seeing, like we were all on one side of the dialysis center and there was a light coming through on the other side. So we thought maybe someone was walking down the hallway.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden came in right from the door and the thing stood up. And I'm telling you, Miss Kara, this thing was probably 11 feet tall.
Oh my goodness.
And we all saw it. The nurses saw it, the doctor saw it, everybody saw it. So I mean, they never questioned me anymore. They never questioned that. So but I get their skepticism. I do. I really get it, because they try to look, even with me being in exorcism ministries that I'm in, we rely a lot on medical first. You know, we rely on the medical evaluations, the psychological evaluations, and stuff like that. So we rely all on that first before exorcism. To me, in exorcism is the absolute last resort that we want to use.
Yeah.
So I definitely get it, but I thank you for working in that field. I think it's much needed. And I've always wondered, you know, it's very rare to find someone that works in the medical field that is in the paranormal like that. But it's very interesting.
I know a couple of them. Maybe we all just find each other and talk about it.
We find our people. I say,
Yeah.
We find our
you
people.
just do. Yeah. And then you end up talking about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you have any doctors? Do you have any doctors like regular like doctors that have experience? Because of anybody that's there, the doctors should, you know, you would think if they experience something,
they're too busy not paying attention to that.
Thank you.
Like
That's what I was
they're
thinking.
they're not.
It's the nurses and
It's the nurses.
We used to call them nursing assistants. I don't want to insult anybody.
So yeah, sometimes some hospitals say techs, some say CNAs. Like CNA is what it is. Yeah.
Those are the ones that are with them patients more.
Yeah.
I think. But
that's so interesting. Now, have you had working in there? Have you like I've heard that people see people like right before they pass and things like that, and I hear a lot of stories that that like a child or something like that will go in there and like start talking to the person, and then later on that person pass away. I mean, have you experienced any?
That there's like, you know, somebody like some nursing homes have a cat that know, like, do you mean like that? Or
like a human, like a human, because they'll look right at it and say, they say, you see this little girl right here, and no one else sees her.
Okay. No, it's usually like a man is what they'll talk about. And that's I've had a lot of people say, you know, like, you know, the man's in the corner or whatever. And it's usually it's usually like it's not a man, and there's not like, it's not my family member man. They'll usually say the. which is interesting. Like you hear that enough times, you go, huh, okay.
Mhm.
So it's and they're not like scared when they say it. They just say it. So finally, I don't how many times somebody has said the man's in the corner to me. I don't know, like I couldn't tell you. It's, more than a couple, but not 100 either. I don't know.
You
But
think
they
it's a
say it.
crossover? You think?
Yeah,
that
no, I
there's a
think it
crossover?
is. So one time I asked a medium that was a nurse. And so I said, okay, I got to know who's the man in the corner. And so she said, that's how we picture an angel. Like, that's kind of how we're like,
okay.
that's us. It's, an angel or a messenger or something. And that's how we see it. And I said, okay, I like that. There was finally a patient. I was almost done with bedside, I think I knew I was leaving, already. I think I knew I had my other job, and I was going to administration, and this very nice, but a little baddie, older woman, she was dying. She wasn't gonna, live too much longer. And she says to me, the man's in the corner. The man in the corner is here. And the way she said it was like we would have this conversation, like it was normal. And again, she said that. And I never turn around to look if I see the man in the corner. I don't need that like in my life. But I finally said to her of the, how many times I've heard this, I go, what does he look like? And cause I kind of never want to, ugh. And she kind of like smiled and she goes, you'll find out one day. And like laughed. And I said, oh,
what
God.
I believe it is.
And I walked out of the room. I was like, oh no. Because it was just the way she said it. I was like, oh.
Did she smile at you? Did she have that little smile?
It was a little like mischievous, and like she knew what she was doing, what she was like. And I was like, oh, well, it just like was so disconcerting the way she said it and everything. I was like, okay, no, thank you. And I was like, okay, great. And walked out. It was too much for me right in that moment. It felt a little too mortal. It felt a little too like, this is going to happen. I will see the man. Like just everything about it was just a little much. So I walked out.
Have you guys had teams are able to come in and active, like a hospital setting, like a hospital is still
no, not active.
They usually don't let that happen.
I know. Nowhere. I've never heard anybody say that.
No, there was even, I would do like little sneaky things. The hospital I was last in was it was an older hospital in theory, business wise, but the building was quite new. But there was one room for sure that I was like, this room, like I would just like on the other side of the curtain, it was just, and so, I would try like little things like, okay, I'm going to leave this here. Like you move it if, and just, I never quite was able to like pull it off, that I would figure something out, because you can't do too much.
Right.
But yeah, I would always kind of try, because there was one room that for sure I would always see something. And there was another room, but it was always full. Like it always had somebody in it pretty much without fail. It was one of the busier rooms. It was a great room, that where it was on the hallway and everything. And that one for sure too, like there was a lot of, because it was one of the busy rooms, like that's where a lot of people would die, just it would happen. And that for sure, that room, like something would go. And I think I know who it was. I think I, was there when he died. Like he would go pull the pull cord in the bathroom. And he would just like, and even once he died, actually, his body was still in there, transport was coming, and the pull cord, it was an emergency like pull cord, and it was right about as the transporter was about to go in to bring him to the morgue. And I said, oh my God, we're going to go hold hands, because I'm pretty sure he is in a body bag, and I'm pretty sure he didn't get up, but like pulling the pull cord in the room, that was just a little too, I was like, is this man actually dead? And he was in the body bag. It being a ghost wasn't as creepy, but there was just something in that moment that I was like, he's alone in there, like his body is in there. And every now and again, I'm pretty sure he would pull that pull cord, and we'd have to be like, oh boy, and go in there and flip it back up.
John, or whatever. Yeah. It's just
like after a while, I was like, oh, that's delightful. But like in that moment when I'm not going to say they aren't all sad, but like, it was just one of those like harder, deaths. He was with us for a long time. It was, so it was a tougher one. And it was actually on Christmas Eve that made it even kind of worse. Like everything about it just like made it worse. And then that happened. So like emotions were already a little higher. And I was like, oh my God. But after all, I was like, that's nice that he visits, but.
Shane can't see because of the phone he's on.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm reading it. But Marla, she said,
oh my goodness.
I dreamed about my dad's passing 2 weeks before he passed. The dream came true exactly the way I dreamed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it had, you know what? We have people do that too. Or we have people that'll, being in the hospital, I worked in one where, it's, if you can feel it and you ignore it well. I do
ignore it very well.
I have to just act like I didn't for many years, especially being on the ambulance. I just kind of had to act like it because my partners already thought I was crazy. So,
Are you guys allowed to talk about it? Like if you see something, or like what if a patient, and the reason why I'm asking is because I know a guy whose uncle was in ICU, and he was out in the waiting area and he had fallen asleep, and he woke up and he says that there was a green aura of his uncle standing in front of him. And he said that his uncle waved goodbye, didn't say nothing came out, and he walked around the corner, and then all of a sudden the thing went off in his room, like somebody had pulled that string or whatever that's in the hospital, and he passed.
Huh.
So
I mean, I think, if somebody were to say that, I would certainly have the conversation with them, but just people usually don't want to bring things up. And that's why, that's part of the reason I think when it comes to like having a talk show or whatever, like I want, and probably for you guys too, like if people can talk about it and kind of know it's a little normal, you have to kind of, right. Everybody thinks you're a little weird at first, they're like, whoa, you're talking about that. You're saying that out loud. And then the more normal you make it seem, just like, yeah, sure. But eventually it's funny. There are other nurses that I worked with that they would say, you're not wrong. I used to see things. So it's even a common enough story that other nurses would say, yeah, I used to see things or used to feel things. But then once I was a nurse, I stopped, because I think, you have to turn it off to get through your day. You don't have to, but it probably makes, and it's not even like a fear thing. I have to turn it off. I just don't need that. Like, I don't need somebody else coming into the room trying to say things. There's enough going on. I have things happening. So it's not even so much that I'd be like, no, I can't see that ghost. That would be terrible. It's just more of a, like, I don't need that because we're going to get through the day and we're going to like figure this out. And what's going to happen is going to happen. If they're here to say goodbye to their family, they're still a heart's still going to stop somewhere, and we're going to figure that out. So you have to be a little bit more just like on task. And so I've always said that I just don't need that. And I think it's just a lot going on.
It's distraction because you're trying to make them comfortable or whatever you're doing for them.
Yeah.
You got this, and it's
something else. And is it relevant, to right now? Maybe not. And it was before I got to the unit. So I actually went back to critical care for COVID. I was happily kind of away from the bedside a little bit in a nice clinic. It was nice. And then COVID hit and I went back to critical care and I stayed for quite a while. And somebody said right before COVID, there was a woman who actually was a medium that was a patient. And she was saying to all the nurses, you don't see any of them? And I guess there was a lot of them. And they're like, no, no. And that was pre-COVID. So I'm sure like, after, during and after is more. And they'd be like, no. And she was telling them stories about some of the patients that had been there, and never left. And so, and she was not wrong, about stuff. And it's funny. I was like, oh man, maybe I'm a little jealous that I'm not picking up on all of that when I'm here. And then I was like, no, I'm not at all. I don't need to know about like those 20 people, you have to know about like who's here, and hopefully they get to be somebody that leaves then, and they don't have to stay. Hopefully you succeed at that. So yeah, I've done so good at turning it off. And I don't know if that was just like when I was younger, kind of I don't want to say survival, because I'll be knee jerk scared of something more because it's just like something in the dark. Maybe I'll be like, but I will run from a bat before I run from a ghost. It's just kind of like anything that's unexpected. I'm like, oh, I didn't know
Humans
that.
are scarier than any ghost.
Yeah.
Without meaning.
Thank you.
So yeah, no, like, so when I was at the prison, that was always a thing. There was certainly for a long time once it was decommissioned, it was pretty abandoned and people would stay there. They would, instead of going to the shelter, it wasn't heated, but at least it was sheltered and everything. So they would stay there, and it wasn't always the most secure. And I would always kind of say, well, at least it's not a live human. So whatever is not a live human making that noise or doing that thing, it's not that bad. And my scariest experience ever at the prison, I don't know in this story if it was a human or a ghost. And if it was a ghost, coolest thing in the world. Like, it really really did things. Yeah, for sure. But if it was a human, it's still terrifying. So one evening, pretty late, we got to be there. It was Saturday when we were there, and we got to stay. There were other tours going on, but our group that did all the cleaning just kind of lingered and stayed. And by the end of the night, it's the end of the night, and we said, well, we could walk around a little bit and go to some areas that we don't normally go to at night, because usually we're just there during the day, or it's doing an actual tour. So how nice to explore. So one of the things that was always like the special treat to go to was to go to like the showers, because those were on the end of the galleries. It's, prison, so it's galleries, and the showers were at the end. And showers, are where things happened in prisons, or happen in prisons, but, at least I'll speak to the happened. We kind of tended to get like our best EVPs or best, interactions, truly, like, because there's so many bad things happened, and the guards would be like on the other side of a secure wall. Nobody was in there to break things up, so that was a scary time for people. So there's a lot of emotion. So we, I always kind of wanted to go in there and they were dark even during the day, no windows, no nothing. So to go in at night, spooky, it was always fun to be able to go and check that out, because that was never on tours or anything. So we didn't always get to do that. So we were walking around, three of us, three women, walking around. We go up a stairway, and it kind of goes through like a administrative storage area, whatever, no big deal. And then it goes into one side of the showers. Then on the other side of the showers, it's then the galleries for the prison. So we go in on the one side, and we all had flashlights, but one had a big flashlight. So it was mostly her using it, because our little flashlights were stupid compared to hers. So she was using hers. She stepped first, kind of took the first step into the shower room. And this shower room had, like how pools or gyms have the big metal middle tube, the pipe, and then 6 come off of it or whatever, or 4 or 6 showers come off it. So like that kind. So back, kind of like turning around the corner, there was a couple of those, and you could just hear as we kind of turned the corner, it was a loud bang, 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 like a pipe or a bat on the pipe, like loud, not just like a hand, not a, something. And we just kind of froze, and she didn't have the flashlight pointing. She like slowly turned, and then she's looking, but we don't know what she's seeing, because we're like, we just never, once that happened, the two of us never quite stepped like all the way. We just kind of froze there. We all just kind of stopped where we were. She was like that one solid step ahead of us. The two of us were a little further back. And we all froze when we heard that, because that's not what we expected to hear at all. Nobody would do that. Like, that's crazy. So she shines her flashlight.
I'm getting that maybe it was a guard.
So maybe. Yeah, but like then it was so loud and like such a concrete, very real sound. Normally, like for me at least, like if you hear a ghost, it's you like hear them in your brain. It's not everybody heard it, And so and in that moment, like we knew she did. And obviously both of us, all three of us just stopped and we just, froze. She shined her flashlight like at the pipe, and it being a guard totally makes sense. And I have more like guard stories too. So actually, yeah, I don't know why I never thought of it. But so she shines the flashlight and like just slowly turns away. So we didn't know what she saw or didn't see. Like, there was no words this whole time. So as soon as she like turns the flashlight away, turns the flashlight away, again, same thing, same bang, 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 like no difference, no change. She quick whirred around, with the flashlight to look at the light, didn't say anything again. Like her expression, like I swear didn't change this whole time. We're just staring at her because we need her to say something because I'm not stepping forward at this point. I am like, I don't know what is happening. She did it again. Then it was the third time. On the third time, we ran. Like we just turned around because I was so convinced it was just so loud and just like such a concrete, real sound that I was convinced it was a real human that was going to chase. So I was turning around with my little stupid flashlight once we got outside, like looking behind us because I thought we were about to all get murdered that night.
You definitely thought somebody else was in there.
That was it. So speaking of like humans, live humans are way scarier. And and it would track that there could be somebody that was like, they never come in the showers. It ends up kind of being a little warmer than everywhere else because there's no air movement. It actually could get warmer in there, right? So even in the dead of winter, it was always a little more pleasant in there if you go in there dark, but a little more pleasant. So it could have been somebody like for real. And to this day, couldn't tell you. So I was so terrified. We ended up, her husband, the flashlight holding one, was on the other side, and some doors were already getting locked up because of the time of night. And the museum was giving other tours, so they couldn't come open the other doors. We had her husband like come meet us, like we had to go through the showers, but we waited till he was there and could pretty much like hold our hands to walk us through. Cause at that point I believed, he's like, I looked, there's nobody. I was like, they could have run by then, like I believed. So everybody like, everybody that hears the story, or even the three of us, like we're still undecided. Some people are like, for sure that was a ghost, no question. And I'm like, I don't know.
It was so real. Yeah.
It was so real. Like there was no, and we all distinctly heard it. There was no like, oh, I heard that in my head or whatever. But just, the whole experience, it was so real. I was pretty sure we were getting actual real murdered, like by this person. I was so sure. We did not, obviously, hopefully.
Oh, good.
Hopefully. But,
Right.
so that's the real live people are the scariest. If I knew, if I would have known hands down, this was a ghost and that was just the coolest, most like concrete, experience you've ever had. And you shared it with these two other people. That would always go down as like the coolest story ever,
Right,
and I would have been like, you guys, coolest thing just happened.
Yeah, you'd have been texting everybody.
But to know, but see, that's the thing that gets you right there, because like you said, it could have been somebody, and that I do believe, honestly, that would scare me more than, because like a physical person could do a lot.
They could do something.
I
I was going to straight up get murdered, like right then, is what I thought was happening. And it didn't, again, like nobody came running after us. But is that just because they knew, I chased them out? I'm going to go hide someplace a little else because
I'll
they
just
might
make
be back
noises and scare them.
Yeah, like I'll just scare them and good, they ran away. Fantastic. We did what we were supposed to do. And then they might have just gone and hid away a little better, knowing that people might be back. So when her husband walked through, no one was there, or was no one ever there? Like, who knows? So that was my scariest. But like, we also at the prison had doppelganger experiences that we didn't know. We figured out like maybe within a short time that wasn't actually our friend, but that wasn't even that scary. That was like, oh, clearly that was just a ghost, because it started out like as our friend, we heard their voice or somebody was seen. And so that was never inherently scary. And then realize realizing later that it never was them, we're just like, oh, cool. Like it was, maybe it should be a little scary that it's a doppelganger, but it never was. We were like, I don't feel like that was menacing. That just felt like a thing. So as long as I know it's not a real human coming to get me.
Right. And
we're fine.
I do. I agree with you on that, because I definitely feel like something like that, especially like in a prison or something like that, or an old abandoned hospital, or something like that. I mean, I can just imagine, because somebody could very easily break into there and be sitting in the backside, be in the basement or whatever. And I mean, they could be there, and I mean, they could do some damage if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And I can imagine how scared you guys were.
Yeah, especially knowing that nobody went there often. That's the kicker. That's why you
and so that area, like you would know if you were spending any time there that was a very untraveled space. And so that's and it's even funny when I go to other places, I don't love, why don't I like going into this space by myself, because that's supposed to be like the by yourself challenge, or not even challenge, but like, look, you're going to do this on your own. And I go, why don't I like this? And I go, honestly, I don't think it's because I think the ghost of Annie, of this hallway is going to jump out. I mean, that's a little like, that's exciting. And you're maybe a little apprehensive that something might happen. But no, the scary thing is, like, I don't know that I'm totally safe. And I mean that from like a live human standpoint. So I always like laugh when I'm like scared to do that stuff. I'm like, am I scared to do that? Or am I scared to just like actually be by myself in some of these places? I think that's probably more it, because I'm very aware that live people do bad things.
They do. They always preach, especially when we have classes and stuff. Have your boo buddy, which means don't go anywhere alone, because
right.
But you do have challenges where they know say the ground is safe or whatever.
Once you know it's safe and like you're thinking about that, but like even when we go to places like to go clean up, grab that thing at the end of the night or whatever, and I'm like, nobody else has been down here in a while, like, and that does just make me go, is it still safe? Like, is there still, so it's a little bit like ghosty afraid, like, oh no, what if right now they jump out? And I think I get more scared that I'm gonna do something embarrassing, like scream and run, which I will. And then later I'll be like, haha, that was funny and weird that I did that. Haha. But like, so maybe I don't want that to happen, but also maybe I think nobody else has been down this hallway lately. I don't like that. And I think that comes from going to places that I know people were, maybe hiding out. And I think that's just kind of a long stand. I don't know if I'll really shed that. I think the self-preservation will kind of persist, and I'll hold on to that.
So as long as you've been in the paranormal, like, what is the absolute scariest thing that has ever happened to you in the paranormal?
Okay, so I will say it's probably still the banging on the pipe guy. No, the coolest. So I will say the coolest / like I was most like scared. So I'll tell my guard story then. And that's why I was like, oh, it's so like definitely could be a guard. There was, so we were at the prison a lot, and, we were always one cleaning. So if you know about like prisons and jails, they are the ones cleaning, doing a lot of that stuff are the tenders or the trustees, depending on what the facility calls them. So usually trustees is kind of the older
trustees,
word. That kind of gets changed because you shouldn't really trust wholeheartedly. Hi, I will see her in a couple days. So you shouldn't really trust. Maybe they're tending things. Maybe you shouldn't, like, trustees is a tough word. So, but that's who's cleaning. It's the inmates basically. So after a while, I think they kind of, saw us, the ghosts kind of saw us. They liked us. They saw us just kind of as them, we're cleaning, we're doing what they did, this is their home. And I think they appreciated the attention and the care. So there was eventually though, there was one day we were actually cleaning Belushi's cells. So that was like a fun thing. There's a lot of paint chips. A lot of paint chips come off of walls. But so we're cleaning and scooping those up. And I kept saying to one of my friends, I can oh, somebody's watching me. Like I knew it was not somebody alive, you know, I knew that, and I would point it out. And then, but then like by the time I would get her attention to be like, you should look, it was, you know, knew to kind of duck out of the way. We were in the east cell house. It's like two sides off of Main Middle. It was coming from the west cell house. The west cell house was closed for a long time by iron bars that could kind of hold things off. And people would for a long time say, don't you, there's a guy down there. Don't you see him? And I'd be like, no, even in broad daylight, they would see a man. And eventually the west cell house doors were cut open and whatever was over there was able to roam freely. And so I think it was a guard. And so that's what I was seeing that day, like, or feeling that day. I like anytime I would look up, I didn't see anything, but it just felt like, you know, when somebody's like leering at you, you know, you're like, you know, and you could just feel it, you know. So I just like kept feeling that. And I was like, icky, like, this is terrible. And so eventually, you know, we're done with the day, but I was like, this is whoever that is, I don't care from, but we're in a prison, you know, hey, this is very likely that I might be getting leered at, you know, by somebody lingering. So we had some paranormal tours that night, and we were on a gallery, and we would, you know, and we had heard footsteps before, like guard footsteps. It's different. It's boots instead of like slippers, you know, so it's a different sound.
Yeah,
and we kept hearing and seeing kind of like an old timey, like a flashlight, kind of like somebody walking like with a flashlight and kind of hearing keys. But like other guests were like hearing and seeing this stuff. And I was like, yeah, nobody alive is down there. Ha ha ha, you know, and let's go down there into the dark. And we would, and, you know, then eventually kind of the sound and the light would stop, but it was I wasn't even the only one seeing it, whatever it was very like, even the guests were seeing it. And I was like, that's cool. I'm glad we all had this experience, like love it for all of us. And, you know, another group of people, we stayed in that gallery a really long time. Another group of people said, I keep hearing something. You know, and I was like, no, nobody alive. Ha ha ha. But sure, we could go down there, whatever. And we go down there, and suddenly I hear the key again, like the sound, like those heavy, you know, like Folger Adams keys. And just like stepping out, it was, speaking of like 11 feet tall, it was just huge, like just a huge, massive, just like blobby shadow. And I knew in that moment, like it was a guard. I was like, this is a guard. And oh my God. And I knew it was who was looking at me earlier that day. Like just in that moment, it like all flashed in, and it just felt so gross and overwhelming and scary, because I think he meant to like be an intimidating guard in that moment, you know, like I think that was the full intention. It was kind of set up all day, and it was just such a concrete, like this big black, like entity. And like at the time I couldn't even like say a person or a man or a guard, really, even just in that moment. Like I knew what was kind of going on, but it was so unpleasant. I definitely ran the other way, left the guests down there. I was like, I can't even be around here. Like, oh my God, you know, and it was just like such an involuntary. So that's like I say, the banging on the pipe, that was a very like kind of conscious fear. Like, I know that I'm probably not that safe right now is how I'm feeling. We got to get out of here. This one, like seeing the guard for the first time like that, it was such an unconscious, just like in, you know, cutting through your soul kind of a thing, like terror in that moment. And the director of operations at the time, I went up and told her, and she knew what my job was. And she goes, good to see how you are in an emergency. And I was like, haha, this is not actually an emergency. Like nothing, there's nothing to do. I just panicked right then and ran. But the fun thing, like henceforth, it was actually always really pleasant. I would call him my guard. You could see him like walking on the gallery. He would just kind of like watch. Sometimes guests would be like, somebody's watching us up there, right? And I go, yeah, you know, and like you could see him. And it would be, and he didn't, Rob, my now co-host, he didn't like Rob because Rob was just then like a man that he didn't like. I think you know, he identified more with the inmates. He would, every now and again, Rob would feel him like stop him, like from passing between like the galleries into the middle, you know, like he would just feel it. We would, like, and one time, so Sam Beltrusis, who's also going to Salem this week, it's already this week. Oh my God. So that just like flew. So he was there, for a tour, and he was like, kind of hosting the Estes method. And this is probably why I love the Estes method so much, is this moment. we were,
That's
you know,
our
it's just
favorite thing to do.
oh, I love it. Like it just, and because also I hate a bunch of people huddled around a spirit box, all yelling at the spirit box and each other and trying to hear it. Like it's just to me the most stressful, messy experience. And it's so like irritating to me. So you make it the Estes method. It's not irritating.
I love
it's
it.
cool. But so it was, I was so sold, such a believer. It was a guest that didn't know us, you know, of course, didn't know us, you know, at all. Had no idea what was going on and all covered up down. And she was able, like the guard was talking to her and then was, you know, so told Rob to leave, said he liked me, you know, was able to say my name. Because they knew us very well at the prison. We spent so much time there. And it was funny. Rob actually he said, fine, I'll leave, you know, the gallery if that's what you want me to do. He did not leave the gallery. He just got pretty far down. They're very long. He didn't leave. And I could tell he didn't. And he stopped just to kind of be like, okay, what's happening? And, you know, here she is all, you know, isolated, covered up. She said, no, keep going. And it was just like, so the whole experience was so cool. And it was just like, and it was that validation to interact. And it was the guard, you know, saying like, yes, a guard. Yes, I like you. You know, maybe I should be creeped out by that. You know, if it was a living guy, I'd be like, ew, you're gross. Back up. But since it's a ghost, I'm like, hey, thanks. Glad we get to see you up there. Keep an eye on me. You know, like, how about you keep me safe? And that was, so it was funny because that turned from being like the kind of the scariest, grossest, just like, oh, this is not okay day. Is it good that, you know, was this a good spirit? I don't know. Was he good in real life? I don't know, you know, when he was alive, but I got it. You know, my first impression was not good. And it was very like scary, you know, and very just like, too much. Too much is probably what it was. But then like after that, I was like, no, this is cool. You know, this is fine. This is part of us, you know, knowing the spirits here and everything. So that first real encounter was awful. And it was just like scary, like down deep, just was. And then it wasn't anymore.
Have you ever experienced like poltergeist activity?
I don't think so. No, I can't say that. I think there's, again, so much of my experience was at the prison, really getting so immersed like that. I think there was some, the kitchen would have like something Chris Fleming, who, you know, definitely would come there, you know, definitely on occasion and do tours. He would say it was a lot of like, there was a lot of elementals like in the hospital and in the kitchen, like through there. And so I think was that more poltergeist or was it like more like, you know, you could kind of see them. They were like, you know, was it an elemental or was it something just like mischievous? I don't know. So it was just, but not like actual poltergeist, not like actual like things happening. It would just be more like, that's the closest I could even say, but that's not even a poltergeist. That's just the closest. That wasn't just like a person being like, I'm going to hang out with you now.
Right. The reason why I'm asking is because, you know, like I've got a video with some people that I know. They were going through a house, and the guy that passed in that house, he was also in prison. And, you know, his wife said that he was a very angry, he was a very agitated man. So, I mean, like, if you're bad in life, you're bad in death. If you're evil in life, you're evil in death. Yep. You know, and you can see them walking down the stairs, and you can hear in the kitchen, clear as day, you can hear stuff moving around in there. And there was only two of them that were in there, and both of them were right here walking with the camera. And they go and they open the door, and as soon as they did, the cabinets flew open and the dishes just threw real fast against the wall.
So is that poltergeist, or is that just the guy is angry and he gets to throw stuff around now? Yeah,
and that's the thing. That's the thing is, like, you know, you really don't know. But I mean, the guy was a very, very bad guy. He treated his wife like really, really bad, and it was kind of like I tend to think that his wife at that time was probably not angry that he passed,
I
but
mean,
now his anger, his residual energy
she
is
still didn't get away from it. She still couldn't
right.
even escape it, even in his death.
Right, right. And I can only imagine. I mean, and you see all these things all over YouTube and stuff like that, where like it's poltergeist this or demon that, and listen, I work spiritual warfare cases with residential cases, and out of all the cases that I work, 1% may be demonic. And I try to encourage people not to get that YouTube education. Don't go through there thinking that YouTube is going to teach you or have the right way to express what true demonic activity is. Have you ever had a chance have you ever ran into a demonic situation?
I'm gonna say no. I was gonna like go with a cautious. I don't think so, but I feel like I might know. So I'm gonna say I cannot say yes to that. So
Yeah,
I've had
you would
I've
definitely
had
do.
creepy. I've had like there's definitely at the prison there was one of the galleries was I think that was a little bit of a pathway to somewhere sometimes, like it wasn't it was but what demonic, no, I think it was just maybe a bad place.
Wow.
And especially bad.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Man, this hour has flown by.
Yeah, that was super
Hey,
quick.
hey,
You
in the
just don't
morning.
have to come back, whether we have a
Yeah, I
phone
mean,
call or not.
Yeah, I
yeah.
would love because I have a lot more questions for you, really. But Miss Carol, why don't you tell everybody how to get a hold of you?
So Facebook is probably my best one for it. So Kara Phillip on Facebook. Same thing for Instagram, Kara Phillip Official, TikTok, Kara Phillip Official. Facebook, I probably keep up with the best. We all have to pick our favorite one, right? And it's just kind of Facebook. TikTok, you're probably going to see more things about my plants and stuff than anything else. Depends on what I'm up to. But so follow me on Facebook. That's where the most stuff is. And it's so easy to share things too. But you could also go sign up for Paraflixx and you can see me on
Yeah.
Paraflixx. And where can you see me really soon is this Saturday in Salem, God willing, all the flights go where they need to go on time. So it'll be in Salem on Saturday. And then after that, I'll also, if you're in the Chicago area, Days of the Dead is the next weekend in Rosemont.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Hold on.
And I'm hoping you guys have a great turnout for those because my wife and I are looking forward to going to some of these events, and things like that. Because like I said, we work a lot of residential cases, so we don't get a lot of time to really go to locations and things like that. And I really would like to go to a lot of these locations. And I'm friends with owners. Yep, and we're definitely going to take some time to go to some of these locations and like really see because we're used to going in and doing the investigating, doing the identifying, doing the clearing, the cleansing, the blessing, stuff like that. And it would just be neat just to go in there and just to see what would happen without doing the clearing and the cleansing.
Yeah.
So I definitely hope that does happen. Into the obscure that you have, what is that show about?
So it's our talk show. It's kind of, well, it's obscure. So it's not just paranormal. It's not just ghosts. So it's not just ghosts. It's, there's the classic three, right? Like UFO, aliens, cryptids, ghosts, but even beyond that. So we, Rob is, obsessed with serial killers and I enjoy him, but he really does. So we talk about some of that. It's everything that's just more obscure, but it's also learning maybe a little bit more about the people in the community than, than just the stories, that we all share all the time. So maybe a little bit more their journey, how they got here, or what else do you do? Like, what else do you have going on? So it's usually about 8 episodes a season, and on Paraflixx. So we're just starting to kind of gear up.
So
yeah,
you guys,
it's fun.
Yeah, you guys go check out Paraflixx. Get it. It's well worth,
Is it a coupon code or
so Obscure 25 is 25% off a yearly subscription. So it's normally like $4 a month. So
it's not expensive. I have Paraflixx and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yep.
So Patty Negri, like when she talks about it, she's like, you've seen everything on, Discovery and everywhere. And, it's just kind of a higher, there's amazing stuff on YouTube. I'm not even going to knock that.
All
It's just kind of,
all kind of stuff on there.
But it's definitely, a little higher quality, at least, film wise, and a little bit more curated. So there's a lot of great choices all together. So I think it's a great place to go for everything. And I always enjoy seeing what's there.
It is. And like I said, I'm the producer for the whole network, but you know what? I go and watch some of you guys' stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I've seen every episode of everything because I'm kind of busy.
Neither have I. I mean, I have not. So,
but I tell people, all you guys from Paraflixx. I mean, we even Larry Eisler.
He's a good friend of mine. I love that guy.
He comes on our shows, and I try to get everybody to. I'm like, people are like, y'all aren't rivals, and I'm like, no, we don't do the same thing.
No.
We're like, we are growing, and we're newer. We're like a year and a half old, but I support other people in it. Paranormal. I do.
Well, I'm big on a rising tide lifts all ships. Like if there's,
thank you.
Why make it unpleasant? Because all that does, if there's going to be this rivalry and people are going to fight or try to put each other down or whatever, all that happens is that we all look bad. Or how about we all lift each other up instead of
thank you.
That's what I'm trying to do. And I've been to a lot of stuff this year, and I always make a point to talk to I don't care who you are, I don't care who you're with, I always make a point to try. Now it gets busy, it gets crazy sometimes.
It does. This one's gonna be a day. So I feel like I love the day Paracon, 1 day Paracons, because like it's just fun. Like everything about it is a great time. But it's like so stressful because I'm like, we have to like really make a point to like take pictures and do this stuff. And
thank you. And so I will tell you, Kara, I'm going to look you up. And I told you the same thing.
I'll be attached to Shannon.
Oh yeah, she's cool. But I told her, I said, I am going to go around and I'm going to take a picture with everybody. But I am trying to get a couple minute not an interview. But, hey, what's up? What you doing? What's coming up? Kind of live thing, if I can. If not, I'm just going to put it all out there. But support each other. That's what we love to do.
Yeah.
Yes,
and that's what I love about our network. There is we have a variety of things that are on there, and I believe we all should. And if we just keep in mind in the paranormal that perception is reality, then we don't have to argue over everything and make people and batter everybody. So I'm glad that you said that, and that's a real commendable thing to say.
Yeah.
But Miss Kara,
over.
Yeah, we're a couple minutes over. I want to thank you so much for coming on. You're an amazing guest. I'd like to have you back if we can. And I'd love to speak with you some more. But thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate you.
All right, thank you.
And if you need us,
you
know how to get me. Okay, I'm serious. We'll be
thank you.
All right,
see you on Saturday.
Yeah, and I'm old. Pull you down if you want to stay a minute, and Shane can talk to you.
Yeah.
I've got to actually pop over to our serial killer show.
Oh my goodness!
All right, guys.
That's what
thank
I do.
you.
Right,
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Take care.
All right.
Well, guys, that's just Kara Phillips. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. She's an amazing guest. The hour went by way too fast, but I appreciate all you guys commenting. Stay tuned for next week. We got another good show. So you guys stay safe, be blessed always, and stay spooky, people. Peace.